Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and yesterday Apple released watchOS 11.4 RC, or Release Candidate. A release candidate is the final version released to developers and public beta testers, and if there's no additional issues, they release the same version to the public a little bit later. watchOS 11.4 supports all watchOS 11 supported devices, and this particular update came in at 252 megabytes on my Apple Watch Ultra 2. Along with this, Apple also released iOS 18.4, iPadOS 18.4, and many other updates for macOS, tvOS, HomePod OS, and visionOS. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the build number and talk about what's new. So we'll go to our settings. Under settings, we'll go down to General, and under General, we'll go to About. And you can see the build number here is 22T250. And as I mentioned before, if there's no additional issues, this should be the final version released to the public a little bit later. Now we do have some new features this time around, and the first thing has to do with alarms. So let's take a closer look. If we go into the Sleep app, within the Sleep app, if we scroll down to where we have our alarms, we'll go into Bedtime. I'll scroll down, go to Sound and Haptics, and under Sound and Haptics, I have a new option for Breakthrough Silent Mode. You'll see it says only haptics will play if you wear Apple Watch to bed. If we enable this, it changes and says Sound and Haptics will play if you wear Apple Watch to bed. So you can use this from here. You can also use this in your alarms as well. So if you go into your alarms that you have set, and if we go into alarms, we'll tap on a different alarm here, scroll down to the bottom, and we have the same option where it says Breakthrough Silent Mode. Sound will always play while wearing Apple Watch. If we disable that, it won't play at all. So you can snooze an alarm or have it play either way. Another thing they've updated is updated on iOS 18.4 as well. If we go into Messages, within Messages, you'll see the latest emoji to comply with the latest Unicode standard. We have a fingerprint, a harp, a splat, a shovel, and we also have some additional faces here, or a face, a flag, and there's another flag that's been updated as well for Syria. So all of these are new. Again, they're to comply with the latest Unicode standard, which is not set by Apple. They're just complying with it. You can see those on Emojipedia. There's also some new watch face additions. So if we press and hold, go over, you'll see we have a new color, Tangerine. This goes along with the new spring colors for Apple cases and the Apple Watch bands. So if we go into the Watch app, go down to our face gallery, go to colors here, we can add colors, of course, or we can go into it and see all of the latest spring 2025 colors. So we have all of those along with Tangerine, and there wasn't too many of them this time around, but you'll see them here where we have Peony, Tangerine, Aquamarine, and Periwinkle. And then we have some older ones as well, Northern Lights and Sage. So you can utilize those if you want to. They're available now in the watch faces. Apple has also silently added an update, and this only applies if you have a robot vacuum that supplies HomeKit, but you can now utilize that in your Home app here as well. So it will work on your iPhone if you add it, and it supports HomeKit, but they've added support for robot vacuums. This was something that they've mentioned quite some time ago when they announced the update, and it hasn't been released yet. But if you have a robot vacuum, you'll see it in your app here. Apple has also resolved a couple issues. Well, the first thing that they've mentioned is an issue where the face selection would become unresponsive when you switch between faces. So if you switch between a face, maybe you want to utilize this, or swipe down, press and hold, swipe over, it would sometimes become unresponsive and you wouldn't be able to use it. So you'll see it works just fine now, and that's been resolved. Also, some people were having issues with the camera. So if we go in and maybe open the camera here, let me find that wherever that is. Go in and open it. I'm sure I've passed it already. There we go. Open the camera. And sometimes when you were on the lock screen, it wouldn't work properly. So if we lock the phone, let's try that out. Open it up, and you'll see it goes right into the camera. So you can see that here with the overhead camera as well. So it's working properly as you would expect, and I'm glad to see they've fixed that. Another thing they've fixed has to do with accessibility. If we go into accessibility, go down to your Apple Watch mirroring, enable this, it should work properly now. So we'll give it a second to connect. There we go, it's connected, and we can see things. So we can go into activity here, we can press the digital crown, maybe go into the Lumi app. There we go, and you'll see it's pretty fast. It's working as you would expect. So everything seems to be working like you would want it to. Again, if we go to our apps here, we can scroll around and move them. There is a little bit of lag, but at least it's working properly. Now, there will be security updates once it releases to the public, and we'll see that in the Apple security website, but they're not posted yet. They typically don't post these until they release them to the public. We also had some public-facing release notes as well, so if we take a look at those, under Apple's public-facing website, you'll see here where we have release notes. We can view those, and there's not a whole lot new here. Quite a few little fixes or features for developers, but not a whole lot of new features. But they've resolved issues for StoreKit. There's still some known issues here, and they've resolved a lot of Swift UI issues. There's a new feature for system calls, and that's about it. So not anything huge here as far as what you can see, but they are fixing a lot of bugs. As far as the overall battery, well, let's take a look at this. I haven't looked at it in quite some time, but if we take a look at the battery, we're at 79%. It was at 80 by the time I started this video, since I've got it on optimized charging. But if we go down to battery here, under battery, you'll see optimized charging, battery health. We're at 100% capacity, which I would expect. I was at that over a year later on the Apple Watch Ultra 1. And if we take a look at battery, again, we've dropped 1% since starting the recording of this video. So it seems to be holding up well. I installed the update and it's working fine. Performance seems to be pretty good. The only thing I've noticed is sometimes I have to press the digital crown twice to get it to open the application. So I'm not sure why it's doing that, but it seems to be working okay right now, but sometimes it's a little slow there. So if I press it, it goes back home and it's working as expected there. If you're wondering if you should install watchOS 11.4 RC, well, if you're on any of the previous betas, I would recommend installing it, testing it out, and reporting any issues you have back to Apple. If you're not on this version and you want to try it out, the RC is the version you would want to try with the public beta. So you definitely could do that, but again, it will probably release pretty soon. As far as that goes, well, if we take a look at the calendar, I would expect it as soon as early next week. Apple does say it's releasing in April, and typically they release an RC the week before. So we could see it as soon as the 31st or maybe the first week of April. They could change this up a little bit, but either way, we should see it released to the public very, very soon. And so far, that's everything with watchOS 11.4. It's not a huge update, but it's great to see them fixing some bugs, adding a few features that are helpful, and we're not expecting a huge redesign this year with watchOS 11 or watchOS 12. So I wouldn't expect any major features, but maybe they'll have a few surprises in store to make things consistent across all the devices. Let me know what you would want to see in watchOS 12, and if you've found any additional features or changes, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do, and if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.